You can eat organic and train daily, and still breathe aging signals 20 hours a day. Because your body doesn't only respond to what you eat, it responds to what you inhale, over and over, quietly, forever. And if that sounds dramatic, here's the calmer, more useful version. You don't need to fear your house. You just need better defaults. Today I'll show you the simplest indoor air stack for longevity. CO₂ is your ventilation score, PM2.5 is your inflammation load, and a home setup that protects your brain without turning your living room into a NASA clean room. By the end, you'll know exactly what to measure, what numbers matter, what upgrades actually work, and the 3 biggest mistakes people make when they try to buy clean air. First, a quick truth that should instantly lower anxiety. Indoor air is not one problem. It's 3 problems that look similar but behave completely differently. Carbon dioxide is mostly a ventilation marker. PM2.5 is tiny particle exposure that can drive inflammation and vascular stress. And humidity is the mold and airway comfort lever that decides whether your house feels like a spa or a sinus experiment. Let's start with the easiest one to understand, CO₂. Because CO₂ is like a credit score for your ventilation. It's not a moral judgment. It's just telling you whether fresh air is actually entering the room. Outdoor air is roughly in the low 400s ppm. Inside, if you're seeing 900, 1200, 1600 ppm, it usually means you're rebreathing more used air, and whatever else is building up in that space tends to build up too. And here's the part most people miss. CO₂ isn't scary because it's toxic at normal indoor levels. It's scary because it predicts everything you didn't measure, like airborne particles, VOCs, and stale air that quietly wrecks sleep quality and next-day performance. So what should you aim for? As a simple target, try to keep living spaces under about 800–1000 ppm when occupied. If you're consistently above 1200, your house is basically asking for more fresh air like a polite person at a stuffy dinner party. Now let's talk about why CO₂ matters for sleep and cognition. Because this is where longevity stops being abstract and becomes painfully personal. A modern bedroom is often a sealed box. Closed door, closed windows, 2 humans, maybe a dog who believes he pays rent. Overnight CO₂ can climb high enough to impact sleep quality and next-day alertness in controlled research, and higher CO₂ bedrooms are consistently associated with worse sleep and worse cognitive performance the next day. Translation: you can have the perfect sleep routine, magnesium, eye mask, cold room, and still wake up foggy because your bedroom air slowly turned into an exhale smoothie overnight. Okay, now the heavier hitter, PM2.5. This is fine particulate matter 2.5 microns and smaller. It's so tiny it gets deep into the lungs, and the concern is that it can drive oxidative stress and inflammation, and is strongly linked, at a population level, to cardiovascular disease risk and brain aging. This is not one weird trick science. It's one of the most consistent signals in environmental health research. Long-term PM2.5 exposure tracks with higher cardiometabolic risk and dementia risk signals show up across large datasets and meta-analyses. And here's the modern twist. You don't need to live next to a highway to get hit. Indoors, your PM2.5 can spike from cooking, candles, wildfire smoke, vacuuming without a good filter, and dusty HVAC systems. Sometimes your worst air exposure isn't your commute. It's your kitchen. So what PM2.5 numbers matter? The WHO guideline targets are very low, single digits for annual averages and low teens for daily exposure. In real life, a reasonable home goal is simple. Keep PM2.5 as low as you can most of the time, and avoid repeated spikes. If you want a clean rule, it's this. If your PM2.5 jumps every night when you cook, or every weekend when you clean, you don't need panic. You need a plan. Now we build the solution, your indoor air stack. And we're going to make this satisfyingly practical. Measure first, upgrade second, then lock it in with habits. Step 1 is measurement, because you can't fix what you can't see. A CO₂ monitor tells you ventilation. A PM2.5 monitor tells you particles. A cheap humidity sensor tells you whether you're drifting into mold territory or desert air territory. And here's the psychology win. Once you can see the numbers change, you stop arguing with your air. You run experiments. That's when people actually stick with upgrades. Step 2 is ventilation, the foundation. This is the cheapest fix and the most ignored. The best method is cross ventilation. Open 2 windows on opposite sides of the home for 5 to 10 minutes. It's like a reset button for stale air. Even a short air swap can drop CO₂ fast, especially in bedrooms and offices. If windows aren't realistic, use what you already have. Bathroom exhaust fans and range hoods exist for a reason. Use them like tools, not decorations. For sleep, a simple move is this. Crack the bedroom door, or crack a window safely if your environment allows. The point is fresh air exchange. Your brain doesn't care if it comes from a fancy system or a humble 2-inch gap. If you want the advanced version, that's where HRV, ERV systems come in, mechanical ventilation that exchanges air more consistently with less temperature penalty. But you don't need that to see benefits. You need air movement and consistency. Step 3 is filtration, the most impactful upgrade for PM2.5. This is where people waste money, so listen closely. HEPA matters because HEPA-ish is not a scientific term. True HEPA is designed to remove a very high percentage of tiny particles, including the hardest to capture sizes. But the bigger mistake isn't filter type. It's sizing. Most people buy an air purifier like they buy a candle. This looks nice. And then they run it on low in the corner like it's a piece of modern art. You need enough clean air delivery rate, CADR, for your room. Here's the simple math. The CADR should be at least about 2/3 of your room's square footage for smoke, and for wildfire smoke many experts recommend even higher. So a 300 square foot room wants a CADR around 200 or more as a starting point. If your unit is tiny and your room is big, it's not bad. It's just outmatched. Like bringing a spoon to a barbell session. Placement matters too. Put the purifier near where you breathe, bedside, desk area, living room seating zone. Don't suffocate it in a corner behind a plant that's also pretending to purify the air. And the best practice is boring, which is why it works. Run it continuously on a moderate setting instead of occasionally on turbo. Consistency beats drama. Step 4 is humidity control. This is the comfort plus immune lever people feel immediately. A practical target is around 40 to 60% relative humidity. Below about 30% you get dry nasal passages and irritated airways, and above 60% you increase the risk of mold growth and musty air problems. If you live in a dry winter climate, a humidifier can make sleep and breathing noticeably better. If you live in a humid climate, a dehumidifier is often the real longevity tool, because controlling moisture is how you prevent mold from becoming a chronic stressor. Step 5 is mold red flags, because mold is the one area where just buy a gadget often fails. If you have a musty odor, visible discoloration, a history of water damage, or persistent sinus symptoms that improve when you leave the house, don't ignore that. The fix is moisture control first. Stop leaks, improve airflow, reduce humidity, and remediate properly if needed. And yes, I know bleach is emotionally satisfying, but mold problems are usually building and moisture problems, not spray harder problems. Now let's talk about what works versus what's hype, because the internet will happily sell you glowing devices that promise ionic purity. What works consistently: ventilation, correctly sized HEPA filtration, humidity control, and source control, especially in the kitchen. Mixed or risky: ionizers and ozone generating devices. Ozone is not a wellness vibe. It's a lung irritant. If a device smells clean, that's not necessarily a flex. And what basically doesn't move the needle for whole room air? Tiny desktop purifiers and plants. Plants are great. They just shouldn't be your primary strategy unless your goal is emotional support, not particle reduction. So here's your 7-day indoor air reset that makes this actionable immediately. Day 1. Measure your bedroom overnight CO₂ and your kitchen PM2.5 during cooking. You're going to find your biggest offender fast, and it's usually one of those two. Day 2. Ventilation upgrade. Cross-ventilate for 5 to 10 minutes twice per day, and test what it does to your CO₂. Lock in a simple routine, morning and pre-bed. Day 3, filtration upgrade. Add or resize a HEPA purifier for your bedroom first. If your brain matters, your bedroom is priority 1. Day 4, kitchen source control. Use the range hood, crack a window during high heat cooking, and consider running the purifier nearby. Your steak shouldn't come with a side of particulate soup. Day 5, humidity check. Keep it in the 40 to 60% range if you can. Your nose will thank you, and your sleep usually improves too. Day 6, dust reduction. Wet dust surfaces, vacuum with a HEPA filter if possible, and consider a shoes off rule if you want an easy win. Day 7, remeasure and compare. If your CO₂ dropped and your PM2.5 spikes shrank, you just upgraded your home environment in a way most people never do, without changing your personality or your schedule. Here's the bigger longevity takeaway. You train 1 hour a day if you're disciplined, but you breathe all day. Indoor air is a slow exposure lever that compounds like interest. So don't chase perfection, chase big, repeatable wins. Fresh air, filtered air, controlled humidity, and fewer particle spikes. That's how you protect your brain and your heart while you sleep, work, and live. If this helped, hit like and subscribe. It seriously helps the channel reach people who need this. Check the description for the tools that match today's episode, including air quality gear and our longevity compass Amazon KDP book. And here's your question for the comments. If you measured your bedroom CO₂ tonight, what number do you think you'd see? And what are you going to change first?